Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera, salam Malaysia Madani, a very good afternoon. Yang berbahagia Datuk Muhammad Umar Swift, CEO Bursa Malaysia, representatives from ministries, federal and state government agencies, private sector, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I want to begin by offering my heartiest congratulations to Bursa Malaysia for the successful go live of the BCX trading platform, which I understood commenced last Monday. This feat is commendable as the inaugural auction was completed less than 6 months ago. As Datuk Umar mentioned, he was expressing his slight disappointment with corporate Malaysia on their take-up or their participation in the program. Similarly, when we increased our green electricity tariff this year, we also saw that many companies that were talking a lot about climate change and environment and sustainability suddenly also dropped out from the program. So I share his sentiment in urging corporate Malaysia to put your money where your mouth is and support our efforts towards sustainability, because for a country like Malaysia with the size of our market, without a strong support from corporate Malaysia, we will not be able to grow it to scale. I'm delighted that both Bursa Malaysia and MGTC have completed the development of Malaysia's voluntary carbon market handbook. It was barely 1 week into my job as Minister for Natural Resources, Environment and Climate Change, and I was invited by Bursa to launch the world's first Sharia-compliant voluntary carbon market, BCX, and I have to admit at that time I was still trying to figure out all the details and technicalities of this, but I would like to congratulate them again. In spite of all the challenges that they've faced, they've been able to bring it this far in a very challenging scenario. Last July, the Secretary General of the UN declared that the era of global warming has ended and that the era of global boiling has arrived. This is unsurprising, given that the findings of the World Meteorological Organization that July was the hottest period on record, July 2023. Ever since we've kept records of temperatures, that was the hottest month in history. Global mean temperature temporarily exceeded the 1.5 degrees Celsius threshold above pre-industrial levels during this period, while sea ice coverage hit a record low, having witnessed a continuous downward trend since 2014. Only the most foolish and stubborn will now say that climate change is not real. The facts do not care about our feelings, and the fact is that our world, as Mr. Guterres so vividly described it, is boiling. And as our Yang Amat Berhormat Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim said at the UN recently, and I quote, "We have not a moment to lose if we want to continue existing on this planet." It's an effort that requires the support of all quarters in our nations, and so I'm grateful to everyone, whether from the public, private or civil society, for joining us today. Ladies and gentlemen, Malaysia's vulnerability to climate change is obvious, given our long coastline stretching over 4,809 kilometers. According to a study released in 2021 by the Asian Development Bank, between 1970 and 2013, Peninsular Malaysia, Sabah and Sarawak experienced surface mean temperature increases of 0.14 degrees Celsius up to 0.25 degrees Celsius per decade. Flooding appears to have become part of our lives, with this natural hazard contributing more damage than any other natural hazards our country has experienced. In the journey of NRECC, in December, we had the floods, and then in May, we had the heat wave, and now we have the haze. That is the reality of climate change. The frequency and extremity of flood events have increased in recent decades, with projections showing that they will continue to increase with continued global warming. This represents a real threat to Malaysia, as our valued national assets, such as power plants, LNG regasification terminals, gas pipelines, ports, and urban developments are located next to our coastlines. And yet, the challenge of climate change also presents our country with real opportunities to reform itself and move up the value chain. Although Malaysia's share of global greenhouse emissions is not more than 0.8%, as a nation, we have embraced our share of climate responsibilities and not sought to absolve ourselves. This is demonstrated in a series of climate initiatives that the government of Malaysia has undertaken in recent years. As you likely know, in May 2023, the Ministry of Economy and the NRECC announced Malaysia's commitment to further accelerate the share for Malaysia's renewable energy installed capacity to 70% by 2050, up from our existing capacity of 25%. The Ministry of Economy has also launched the National Energy Transition Roadmap, NETR, last August, anchored on 6 levers to accelerate energy transition, namely renewable energy, energy efficiency, hydrogen, bioenergy, green mobility, and carbon capture, utilization, and storage, CCUS. I believe that the carbon markets can emerge as among the financial enablers to support these levers, including the voluntary carbon markets. Indeed, and I'm certain that this will be deliberated at length in today's forum, and that VCMs will be very important for Malaysia in moving forward. Ladies and gentlemen, the World Economic Forum, WEF, in August this year, argued that voluntary carbon markets are currently the most effective way to address GHG emissions reduction by mobilizing billions of dollars in private sector finance every year. Importantly, VCMs can help host countries to achieve their nationally determined contributions, even if such sales are to corporate buyers outside of Malaysia. This is because sales of carbon credits in VCM do not require authorization from host countries and are not considered as international transfer of mitigation outcomes from host countries to meet the buyer's country's NDC obligations. This is an opportunity as Malaysia is well endowed with resources that can propel us towards a lower carbon economy. We not only have huge renewable energy technical potential, especially solar PV, but also the means to support climate actions. As of 2019, nearly 55% of our country is under forest and tree cover, with more than 18 million hectares of forest cover, which could be managed to ensure permanent carbon sequestration. It is widely agreed that we need nature-based solutions, which can provide up to 30% of the mitigation required by 2030 to keep the 1.5 degrees Celsius target within reach. The VCM can help mobilize public sector finance towards nature-based solutions, particularly in the global south, where it is urgently needed. As is well known, forest lands in Malaysia are under the jurisdictions of the state governments. Indeed, many state governments have reached out to my ministry for alignment of carbon policies for forest carbon assets. I can and have assured them that my ministry is doing our best to ensure that these discussions take place and fruitfully at that. I wish to also reiterate that our national carbon policy is expected to be launched this year. It will provide, among other things, guidance on carbon trading for the state governments. I would like to applaud the Sarawak state government for incorporating carbon legislation into their laws. On this note, I'm pleased to note that the BCX is organizing their next auction to offer Malaysian nature-based carbon credits. This is what we've all been waiting for. Given that the challenges of a nascent VCM in Malaysia, I am delighted with the progress of BCX thus far. Congratulations to BCX are also in order, as their trading platform just went live last week, and now they are getting ready to auction carbon credits from the Keynote project, which is located in Sabah, and this auction will be announced once Vera has issued Keynote's carbon credits. This project is commendable as it's being verified for a triple gold labeling under Vera's co-benefit standard of climate, community, and biodiversity. Despite the huge technical potential for various carbon projects in Malaysia, it must be acknowledged that carbon markets are in their early days and as such are evolving. Much needs to be considered, including the complexity of macroeconomic factors which influence the price of carbon credits, evolving standards and safeguards to ensure the integrity of carbon credits, potential interactions between voluntary and compliance carbon markets, the impact of cross-border carbon leakages, and others. In this regard, I appreciate the presence of the speakers at this Carbon Market Forum who will share their expert views on how these challenges can be navigated. We hope that they can share how we can best develop high-quality carbon projects that can meet increasing standards and criteria to avoid the former from ending up as stranded assets. I will leave you with this point. Sustainability, ESG, and climate action, among others, are now buzzwords for corporations everywhere. This is a welcome development, but there is an urgent need to translate rhetoric into concrete actions, as mentioned, whether it's in the BCX, it's for our green electricity tariffs, and so on and so forth. We must realize that this is an age of skepticism, where faith in institutions and even science are constantly challenged. The idea that all efforts at addressing climate change, including on the part of the private sector, is so-called greenwashing, continues to spread, including through the unchecked and perhaps uncheckable realm of social media. While a discerning public is always a good thing, unwarranted cynicism is rarely a blessing for societies, especially for something so important as addressing climate change. And again, for efforts in challenging things like the carbon market, definitely there's a lot of trial and error before we develop towards the next stage. There is certainly a need for strong narratives and communication, but also on both parts of the regulators and the regulated for sincerity, integrity, and indeed doing what we say we will do. Concepts like VCMs are exciting and possibly necessary for climate action, but they need public support. Hence, leadership in all sectors will be necessary to bring this about. Ladies and gentlemen, don't worry, I'm finishing my speech. This generation can make a difference through climate actions that are inclusive and empowering. I wish to thank Bursa Malaysia for fulfilling their mandate in delivering the BCX and also in their endeavors to facilitate the development of a vibrant VCM ecosystem. To date, Bursa Malaysia has delivered a voluntary carbon market handbook and organized numerous awareness sessions, including this forum. The success of this carbon market will require deep collaboration among many stakeholders. To this end, I urge everyone in this room to join us on this journey, whose destination we hope will be a better Malaysia and world, which we can be proud to leave our children and their children. It's my great pleasure to launch BCX Malaysia's Voluntary Carbon Market Handbook. Thank you.